There's a old Hermetic saying that says, as above, so below. And the other part is, as within, so without. It's first written by Hermes hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago, and quoted by Jesus in the Gospel of Thomas. As above, so below, as within, so without. The idea of balance also reminds me what happened with Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi was once asked, oh great one, that's what Mahatma means, oh great soul, what is the way to peace? Gandhi said, there is no way to peace. Peace is the way. We say balance. What is the way to balance? There is no way to balance. Balance is the way. In order to have balance in the outside world, which right now is sadly lacking, as you know, the inner balance of each individual has to happen first. It can't happen out there till it happens in here. And there's then a tipping point where a number of people, a certain percentage, have reached a level of balance will then manifest in the outside world. The slideshow talking about balance and equilibrium is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Perhaps many of you have seen the movie maybe more than once, the original Karate Kid. And in the Karate Kid, the martial arts master, Mr. Miyagi, has the young boy, Daniel-san, out in a rowboat. And straddling up on the rowboat, up on the sides of the boat, is Daniel-san doing his blocking, working, trying to keep his balance. However, Mr. Miyagi starts to rock the boat. Daniel-san's going back and forth and finally loses his balance and falls in the water. Mr. Miyagi starts laughing and says, no balance, no power. And I know this from the years up north when I had my schools of martial arts and self-defense. I taught no balance, no power. Spent a lot of time teaching the students to keep their balance, keeping their feet under them, and this also means balance up here too. So let's give some more examples of what balance is, why it's so important. For myself, if I walk into a room and I see a picture frame hanging on the wall that's crooked, drives me nuts. But I learned not to go try and fix it because I knock them out, they fall and break, and so I just let it go. But it still drives me crazy to see something out of balance like that. There's something within us that craves balance. You certainly don't want your tires, the air in your tires to be air in one and different in the others. You're out of balance, in big trouble. Not to mention having your wheel alignment done without good wheel alignment, your car is going to shake and big problems. One would hope that your house was built by a contractor and the architect that was able to balance everything. Here in Casadega, the houses are so old, they start to tip in the sand, and I could roll a marble down the floors. But ideally, you want to have balance. The plumber, that's what the plumber means. They had a plumb bob so that the pipes are also laid in proper balance up and down. So these are very important things we have to deal with. Andrew Jackson Davis. Here in Casadega, the building where the bookstore is the Andrew Jackson Davis building. That's where I have my classes also, and we have meetings there. Andrew Jackson Davis was a forerunner of the early days of spiritualism in the 1800s. And one of his main teachings was to keep an even keel, keep an even mind. Certainly, again, a boat without a good keel is going to list one way or the other out of balance. You're in big trouble. Now, let's talk a little deeper now. Let's get into the health aspect of it. Even just today on television, I saw someone talking about a balanced diet. Well, right now, that might be difficult for some people, getting out, getting food. But the idea is to keep balance within your diet. When we talk about health issues, a professional, like a doctor, would talk about homeostasis. Homeostasis. When the body is out of balance, it will do whatever it can do to bring it back into balance. Indeed, illness and disease is a question of the body being out of balance. Even something not so nice like having a body temperature of 100 degrees or more, people don't like that, but it's bringing the body back into balance. Certainly, eyesight is important. You want to have 20/20 vision. If not, you're going to have to correct it with glasses or contacts, because 20/20 vision is so important to get through the day. Same thing with hearing. Those who know me, I have hearing aids. You can't see them maybe, but I do. One ear is pretty bad. The other one's really terrible. So I have to have the hearing aids to balance it. Otherwise, I don't know, I'd probably go crazy. So what else do we have? Well, you better balance your checkbook or your real big problems. One of the graphics I saw in your slideshow was showing people walking the tightrope, the high wire tightrope, and they better keep their balance or they're going to fall. Let's go a little deeper now. Let's go to the Bible. The letter of James. Most people don't even know about the letter of James. It's after the four Gospels and after the Acts of the Apostles. They never get around to it. It is back there. In the very first part, it says, and listen to this. This is written, who knows when, hundreds and hundreds of years ago. A man with a divided mind is unstable. Today, psychiatrists, psychologists, etc. are making a fortune because people's minds are divided, they're not equal, they're not balanced, and they are unstable. If they're unstable enough, they can fall into pretty bad behavior patterns. So we want to keep a mind that is balanced. So that we're going to get to that shortly. There has been a lot of research over the last 20 years or so about bringing balance into the brain. You probably heard about left brain people, right brain people. Yeah. The left brain tends more toward analytical, judgmental, critical, scientific, mathematical, scientific kind of thing. And the right brain people tend more toward artistic, creative, psychic, beauty, things like that. Abstract thinking, abstract things. The idea is to make, as all the esoteric teachers say, make the two as one. When the left brain and the right brain are working together, we have what's called whole brain. And this is also called hemisphere synchronization, to synchronize the left and the right brain together. It doesn't happen naturally. So many people have so much left brain or so much right brain. I'm so right brain, I can't even deal with left brain stuff like computers and technology. I'm lost. I'm totally lost there. I'm right brain. Dividing the brain between the left and the right is something called the Corpus Callosum. You can look it up in your medical book. Right there. To bridge the two, to bring it closer together, to bridge that corpus callosum, that divide, is much what we're trying to accomplish here. This brings us to something called the natural law of three. In the ancient teachings, it's called resolving the apparent pairs of opposites. Now, I know when I do a lot of reading books, and the author talks about the pairs of opposites, left and right, black and white, good and evil, high and low, hot and cold. I don't deal with that because it's not that. It is not the pairs of opposites. It's the apparent pairs of opposites. They're not here or there. It's on the spectrum, a continuum. I'll give you an example. We talk about tall and short. I doubt very much anyone here listening to me can give me a definition of tall. Can't be done. Not unless you put it relative to something short. See, same thing, you can't define short without talking about tall. So if you live in a relative world of this and that, you will be a man with a divided mind, unstable. When I say man, I mean mankind, men and women, yeah, humankind. So the law of three is to reconcile both of the extremes. That's what we're trying to do, to make the two as one, and it's the law of three. Even our planet Earth is literally out of balance. You might know from science classes in high school or whatever that the Earth itself is not straight up and down at the poles. It's tilted. Hope you can see that it's tilted 23.5 degrees. I don't know if you know that, but it is. So as it rotates and revolves around the sun, this is why we have 4 seasons: spring, summer, winter, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. It's called the precession of the equinoxes. Understand the equinoxes are the 2 times during the year where the Earth comes into balance as it revolves around the sun. They say you can even balance an egg on edge that one day. And that's the only day. Well, there's one day in the spring, one day in the autumn equinox. And it's so interesting and so out of balance that when we have winter south of the equator, they have summer, and then vice versa. So it really is out of balance. If it were straight up and down in balance, we would have no seasons. And that's no fun. So we understand that balance is really what we're looking for in our lives. Now, we need to talk about how to bring balance within, because unless it's within, it's not going to happen without. And if it's not within, we will be out of balance. It doesn't matter then out there. It doesn't matter at all. So the first thing that is so important in bringing balance, and you demonstrated it a little bit earlier, was called superconscious meditation. Superconscious meditation is focused here in the space between the eyebrows, the center of the forehead, to bring, when the focus is there, it brings the 2 sides together. And that's where the divine within you is found, here, deep inside. So a good instruction, a good practice of superconscious meditation, which maybe someday I'll have the opportunity to do a teaching for you, it starts with that. The consciousness has to come into balance and to realign with the balance of the divine within you. That's where it starts. Now, one of the ways to do that until we get around to doing the superconscious meditation instruction would be to focus on something like this. The yin yang. Now, don't make the mistake of calling it the yin and the yang, because now you've just created the 2. You created a dichotomy. It's 2 parts of the same thing. That's not black and then white. It's one thing that has black, white within it. If you were to just pick this off the internet and just focus on it with your 3 eyes, again, the law of 3, you begin to come into balance. This is one way to get you started to deal with balance within. I keep that handy so I can look at it. I also keep a builder's balance. You can see right there the little, there we go. Let's get it right. Get that bubble in the middle. I keep that close by as a continual reminder to create balance in my life. Sometimes we need the visual to understand what needs to be done. I also keep this close by. I hope you can see that. It's a pan scale that if it's out of balance, then we got a problem. We want to keep it in balance. And even just focusing on that, the consciousness within tends to come into balance. Remember now, when I talk about looking at something, this is a true teaching. Please understand this is true. It's not symbolic. The eyes are the windows to the soul. Now, how do we know that? It's a scientific fact. There are times in class or given a talk, I'll ask, has anybody here ever seen a living human brain? Most people say no. Some people that are doctors might raise their hand and say yes. But most people say they've never seen a live living brain or even a part of one. The eyes are actually part of the brain. The eyeballs connect to the center of the brain by the optic nerves. So therefore, what you look at is going to affect your mind. Here's another one that's very important to look at. The number 12 card. I hope I can get this right. The number 12 card of the tarot, number 11 card of the tarot deck. It's called Justice. Justice is supposed to be fair and balanced. And I hope you can see that too well, but she's holding the same type of pan scale in her hands. Right there. Well, it's kind of hard to see, understand that. Right there. Yeah, just a little side teaching here. Most people would say when they see the statue or picture of Lady Justice, she's holding pans and she's blindfolded. You've probably seen that, blindfolded. They say justice is blind. But the original teaching, she's not blindfolded. That's to indicate that we have to have all the facts before we can make a balanced and fair opinion about things. So these are things you can look at that would affect the brain and bring it into balance. Another one, you might go online and find the caduceus. I hope you can see that. The caduceus. Without giving, I could spend hours and hours on the caduceus, but you just need to know that this is looked at properly and understood properly between the left and the right, and bringing things into balance and how they focus on different aspects of ourself. This is actually the metaphysical anatomy of what we look at, of what we are. This is really us. So going online and finding a good graphic of the caduceus and staring at it and even a little study of it will bring you into balance. Now, there's been research. They will take somebody and set that person in a chair. And they have the technology now to put the probes on the brain, on the head, to measure brain waves and energy patterns in the brain. The average person, the brain energy patterns are scattered. We'll call non-coherent. If they're really bad, they're a scatterbrain. You know those people too. And it's hard to function in life when there's no balance and no coherence in the brain. Then they take this person and whisper in his or her ear an appropriate Sanskrit mantra to meditate on. Remember, meditation. And within a very short period of time, the energy pattern of the brain becomes coherent. This is science now, from non-coherence to coherent, functioning left and right brain. Thus the importance of superconscious meditation, which I'd like to teach you someday. Now they took the same type of experiment, put the probes on the brain, on the head, measured the brain is scattered, and then they have that person sit and listen to a talk similar to this, where the truth teachings are presented. In Sanskrit, it's called satsang, S-A-T-S-A-N-G, satsang. So sit and listen to the truth teachings, because only truth can set you free. And as they're listening to satsang, listening to a truth teaching talk, the brain comes into coherence. So we have cause and effect, science. Now there's another one that demonstrates this quite clearly. Again, the left and the right, the positive and negative, we are electromagnetic beings, they have to come into balance. If I'm holding this, nothing happens. If I'm holding it like this, nothing happens. But if I balance the left and right together, you know, see that or hear that, it lights up. This represents you, us. When it is in balance, the light flashes. You see that? It has to be both. It has to be both. So these are examples of what needs to be done. I'll give you one or two more, and then I see my time is winding down. I want to talk about alternate nostril breathing. Probably just as easy to go to a used bookstore and buy a little book on Hatha Yoga, the yoga that you're familiar with. And most every book is going to have a thing on the alternate nostril breathing. Too hard for me to go into detail, but I'll give you this. Using the right hand and the thumb and the ring finger. Thumb and the ring finger. What you're going to do, you're going to close off the one nostril, open the left nostril, close the right, take a breath, close both, hold it, out with the right. Repeat it on the other side, in through the right, close it, hold it, out through the left. That's one repetition. Do as many as you want, as often as you want. That brings balance that is actually depicted in the caduceus I showed you. This is very important to bring balance in the mind, in the brain. You can't really overdo it unless you get crazy about it, but just do it. Very important one. I'll give you one more, and I see my time is winding down. I always start left hand over the right ear, right hand over the left ear. If it gets uncomfortable, you can rest your elbows on a table. You don't have to push the hand against the brain, just kind of hold it over there. Again, I'm reminded of the movie Ghostbusters. They said, don't cross the streams. Don't cross this. Well, here you do. It's that crossing that creates the balance. We're dealing with electrical charges that you have to have both the positive and the negative. Positive over the negative, negative over the positive. And this is how you bring balance within yourself.